New videos every day. Life wisdom.
Hello everybody, this is Dr. Eccles again, and we're very fortunate today to have some very special people with us. This is Miss Corey and Miss Karina, and today they'll be helping me demonstrate some really great ideas and showing you how we do things in our office. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and this is something that really surprises a lot of people, is when they come into the office, they'll oftentimes point to a spot on their back and they'll say, "Doc, it hurts right here." Well, I've learned over the last 27 years that just because it hurts right here doesn't mean that that's necessarily where the problem is. Pain can refer and radiate all over the body. I always kind of laugh and I joke with my patients and I say, you know, if you step on a dog's tail, it's the other end that ends up barking. So in our case, oftentimes where the pain is not, or the problem is not necessarily where you're going to feel the pain. So today what I wanted to do was kind of demonstrate, if it isn't necessarily where the pain is, how do we go about finding out where it is? And we use some really great techniques that involve muscle testing to do that, and I wanted to demonstrate that with you today. So in this case, I'm going to use Karina as my model, and we'll get set up and I'll come right back. Okay, so we've got Karina here on the table, and she's come in and she's told me, well, she's having some back problems. So one of the first things we wanted to do is determine whether this is a disc problem or is it just a musculoskeletal problem? Is it a problem with some of the alignment of the pelvis or the vertebrae themselves? Now, a lot of people will think that if they have pain that's radiating down in their leg, it is a disc problem, but we found that that's not always the case. If it's going all the way down into the feet, then it more than likely is a disc problem or herniated disc, which we have special ways that we're going to take care of that as well. And by the way, since we're talking about discs, I always recommend trying a more conservative approach rather than just assuming that you have to have surgery for something like that, because we've been treating discs with a great amount of success for the last 25 years. So it definitely can be done, and it should be done rather than subjecting yourself to the dangers of surgery. Now, there are some times when surgery just seems to be the way to go, and it may actually be necessary for you, but I always encourage you to try the most conservative things first, and then if that doesn't work, you can always get surgery. But if you jump into surgery, you're pretty much stuck with what you've got. Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not. So we were talking a little bit about the fact that you couldn't always tell where the problem is strictly by where the pain is. So today we're going to show you how I kind of find out where the problem is and figure it out. And one of the ways that we're going to do this is by testing certain muscles. Now, in order for you to understand what I'm doing, it's very helpful to think about this in terms of a circuit breaker panel. Most people know what that is. At your house, you've got a circuit breaker panel. And if one of the circuit breakers trips, let's say the one to your refrigerator trips, the refrigerator is going to turn off, yes? And you wouldn't think about, well, maybe I should go put a new motor in the refrigerator to make it work, or maybe I need to put new Freon in it. There's nothing wrong with the refrigerator. It's just that it is, if you wouldn't mind me saying, it's neurologically or electrically disconnected from the rest of the house at that point. So what we have to do is reconnect it. And the way we would do that at home is we would go and flip the circuit breaker, and now we would reestablish that electrical or neurological connection with the rest of the house, and now the refrigerator would work, wouldn't it? Okay, so that's what we're going to do today by checking certain muscles. And when certain muscles are weak, I know where those circuit breakers are so that I can go and reset them, and then we can get the muscles all working properly. A lot of times people will come to me and they may have some diffuse symptoms in the lower back, or maybe no symptoms at all. And we check the muscles and they're very, very weak. And I explained to the person, now if you kept walking, or you've got a muscle that's not working there. If you kept walking around on that, your body would have to compensate for the fact that that muscle's not working. And if you kept doing that over a long enough period of time, you would probably start to develop some sort of problem in the body because you're compensating for that. Okay, so we want all of the muscles very strong and stable because you're going to be more stable on your feet. If you're an athlete, it's going to make you much more prone to not having any injuries. People with their muscles not firing properly are going to be more prone to injuries. In older people like me, it's always better to have all your muscles working because you're more stable on your feet. So I've had a lot of my patients tell me, that once we've got this work done, they feel much more confident walking because they're very afraid they're going to fall because the muscles aren't working and their foot might catch and they may end up falling. And that's a big no-no. So by just getting these muscles working and getting everything stabilized, we can oftentimes really help people with stability, increased performance, and that kind of thing. So that gives you a little bit about what I'm going to be doing. Let me show you how I go about doing it. One of the main hip flexors in the body is called the psoas muscle. And it's a big giant muscle. It goes back here from the back through the pelvis. It hooks up onto this bone right here, and it's the primary hip flexor. This muscle, if it goes out, it can be very destabilizing to the person. And if it goes into spasm, it can be very, very painful. One day I had this muscle go into spasm on me, and I was in bed for about a week, and it was extremely painful. So I have a lot of empathy for my patients that come in with this. Sometimes you'll see people come in and they'll be bent over like this or pulled over to the side and they're barely walking. That's when this muscle goes into spasm. And oftentimes it can go into spasm due to dehydration. So we want to make sure that you're getting adequate water and adequate minerals as well. It doesn't matter how much water you drink if you don't have enough minerals on board. And that would be another lecture, but we don't get enough minerals in our diet today. Okay, so Karina, let's check a few muscles. We'll start by checking the psoas muscle. And I'm going to have you lift your leg, keep your leg straight, bring it out all the way, push up against my hand here for me. And I'm pushing down, and that muscle's pretty strong. She can lock it in place, and that's what we're looking for, is if that muscle locks. If you push on it and it's just kind of like a rubber band and goes all the way down, that muscle has lost its ability to function properly. So I'm going to walk over here to this end of the table. Push up for me here. Good. And that muscle is working pretty well too. Now, the other hip flexor that we have here is called the rectus femoris. Don't worry about the names. It's just a big muscle that goes right here on the top. And let's check that one. I want you to raise your leg straight up, push up. Okay, and that muscle's really strong. And then let's check this one right here. Push up right here. Uh-oh. What happened? Hold it up. See, she can't do it. So this muscle is more like a rubber band. It's just sitting there and she can't do it. And when she tries to, you can see her trying to recruit her other muscles, and her pelvis comes up off the ground here like this. So this is a real big indicator that we've got some sort of a disconnect in there, and the body is not able to recruit this muscle and make it strong. So we're going to do that one more time. I want you to push up real hard. See, it just goes straight down.
And I can actually feel it like torquing my back.
Exactly. So now we're going to do a little bit of muscle testing. I think for the camera's sake, I'll try to do it on this side. I normally would do it on the other side. Now we've got to find out what it is about this muscle that's not right. So we're going to have you push right here for me. Good. And I'm going to touch here, push here. Okay, so we've got several of these circuit breaker points in the body. This one just happens to be called a neurovascular point. And this point right here in her head actually corresponds to where the origin of this muscle is. And the origin is on right there, and it should be kind of tender.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so she notices that right away. It's very tender. She didn't know that when she sat down. She didn't know that that muscle was going to be tender there, or that it was going to be weak. And that's what I'm talking about. Just keeping these muscles balanced is a great idea. And she may have come in and we found this with her not really having any obvious symptoms. Sometimes there is, sometimes there not. So I'm holding these points here, and what I'm actually doing while I'm talking to you is I'm feeling for a pulse. And once we get those pulses here and here, we get those pulses synchronized and they start beating together. Then I know that muscle, we're done with that particular point. And there could be more than one thing wrong with the muscle as well. Is that starting to lighten up a little bit, or is it still real tender?
It's feeling a little less tender.
Okay.
But it definitely.
All right, we're gonna let that We're going to let that sit for just a minute longer. And oftentimes, I will use my elbow instead of my fingers for this, just to make it a little bit easier on me, because the fingers, I've got quite a bit of pressure on this muscle. Okay, how's that feeling now? Much better. Okay, so we're going to go back and check again. Push here, and then there's another point that we'll check right along the ribs here. Push here. This is called the neurolymphatic point, and it's weak as well. Is it tender there? So she knows that that's pretty tender. And also here, and this is where that muscle inserts. It inserts down here on this bone. So we're going to hold these points just like we did the last ones. And these, again, kind of think of these like circuit breakers in the body, and we're just resetting them. It's always fun to watch the look on a patient's face when we go back and we recheck the muscle, and the muscle's strong, whereas, a few minutes ago they couldn't even hold it up. And they know something good has happened. Okay, so we've got these pulsing together now. Takes a little bit of practice to feel these pulses in the body, but once they do, it's pretty obvious. So now we've got those two. Let's go ahead and check something else. Push here for me. I'm going to reach right under here and touch the base of her sacrum. Push here. Okay, and that's weak too. So one of the things that can shut this muscle off is having the sacrum out of position. In this case, it would be rocked backwards on this side. So that would be the next thing I'm going to do, is adjust that. So Karina, let's get that adjusted. I'm going to have you roll over on this side facing me. And Karina, I'm going to get you to straighten this leg, put this leg up here, and I'm going to have you scoot toward me. So you're over here on this side of the table. And I'll take this arm. You don't need it. There we go. We pull that arm under just to give a little bit more traction. All right, so we've got Karina in the position here. Just to give you all a little anatomy, this is her lumbar spine back here. Her iliums are the big bones that are on the side here, where the hip bone actually attaches into. And the ilium on this side attaches to the sacrum, which is that big bone that goes here that turns into her tailbone right here. So her sacrum is actually rocked back on this side. Is it tender here?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to just move that bone a little bit. I'm going to have you come over. Good. Breathe out there for me. Perfect. Now, I'm going to have you come over. Good. Breathe out there for me. Perfect. Now, I'm going to have you come over. Good. Breathe out there for me. Perfect. Now, that we're good. And we felt that bone move back in place, didn't we? Yeah, we did. All right, so very good. Put your feet back down for me now. And now we're going to go back and check our work and see how we're doing. Give me this arm right here. Push here for me. Okay. I'm going to reach right up here. Push. Okay, that's real strong now. And over here. Push. Good. And then we'll go here. Push. Good. All right, so now I've got the two circuit breakers here back fully functioning, and I've reset the sacrum. So let's go down and check the muscle and see how it's doing. Okay. All right, raise this leg for me and push straight up. Okay. Now I can't push your leg down. Did you feel the difference in that muscle? So even in just a couple of minutes, you didn't have to go work out or make that. A lot of people think they're just not working out one leg or the other. That's what they think. It doesn't have anything to do with that. This muscle was actually neurologically disconnected from the rest of your body. It was only working maybe at a small percentage of what it should be. So now we've got it reconnected. I can't push your leg down. And you noticed your pelvis was staying on the floor. So this is a really good demonstration of how the problem may not necessarily be right where the pain is. And even more importantly, this is how I would go about in my practice of locating where the problem is, and not just guessing, but locate where the problem is, make an adjustment, and then, and this is really cool, see an immediate response from the body that we've done the correct thing. This is Dr. Jeff Eccles. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in another video real soon.
That was really neat.
Cool.